Welcome to our 3ds Max tutorial on creating realistic soccer ball. In this video we'll take you through the step-by-step process of modeling a soccer ball from scratch, using both advanced and basic techniques, and careful attention to detail will achieve an accurate representation of the ball's unique pattern. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced 3D artist, this tutorial will provide you with valuable insights and skills to enhance your modeling abilities. So let's dive in and create a stunning soccer ball in 3ds Max. Creating a soccer ball shape in 3ds Max is not as straightforward as finding a pre-made soccer ball geometry because it doesn't come included in the software. However, we can still achieve the desired shape using a technique called hedra. A hedra is a geometric shape made up of polygons, which can be adjusted to give a similar pattern found on a soccer ball. Although 3ds Max doesn't provide a dedicated soccer ball geometry, with a bit of creativity and the hedra technique, we can achieve the desired shape. To create a hedra in 3ds Max, let's start by accessing the Create panel. Look for the Geometry category and click on the arrow next to it. From the drop-down list that appears, select Extended Primitives. In the Object Type rollout, you will then see a button labeled Hedra. Click on it and click and drag in the viewport to define a primitive shape. Once you have completed these steps, next thing to do is select the Move Transform tool and relocate the object to the origin of the world. This ensures that the soccer ball is positioned correctly. Now, let's move on to the Modify panel. In the Parameters rollout, our first task is to adjust the radius. Scroll down to the bottom of the Parameters rollout and modify the radius value to 11.5 centimeters, which corresponds to the true radius of a soccer ball. After adjusting the radius, we can proceed with further editing the parameters of the object. To do this, go back to the top of the Parameters rollout and locate the Family section. This section allows us to change the family of the object, which in turn alters the shape of the hedra. To achieve the desired shape, select the Dodec/Icos family from the available options. By choosing this family, we ensure that the hedra takes on the specific shape we have in mind for the soccer ball. Once you have selected the Dodec/Icos family, there is still one more thing that we need to adjust to achieve the desired shape. Look for the Family Parameters section, usually located below the Family section. Within section, you will find the p-value, which determines the shape of the hedra. After extensive experimentation, I have found that setting the p-value to 0.365 produces a primitive shape that closely resembles a soccer ball. Adjusting the p-value to this specific value will help us achieve the desired outcome in creating a soccer ball shape from the hedra. Now let's proceed to the Slate Material Editor. In the Material browser, navigate to the Scanline folder to find the standard legacy material and drag it into the view. If in any case you don't see the Scanline folder, check the description down below for video on how to find the standard material. Once the material is in the view, assign it to the hedra object. After assigning the material, you can close the Material Editor. Now let's open the color palette to change the edge color of the object. Select the black color from the palette and apply it to change the edge color of the hedra to black. This adjustment helps us clearly distinguish the edges and polygons of the object within the viewport, improving the visibility and clarity of the shape. And there we have it. We have successfully created a primitive shape that accurately represents a soccer ball. The resulting hedra exhibits perfectly aligned hexagonal and pentagonal shapes, capturing the unique geometric pattern of a soccer ball. Now, let's move on to adding more geometry to our soccer ball. To achieve this, we can use different modifiers, but however, we want to clarify why using Turbo Smooth and Open Subdiv is not recommended for modeling a soccer ball. I will first make 2 copies of the original hedra. For the first example, let's apply a Turbo Smooth modifier with 2 iterations. This modifier aims to smooth out the geometry by adding additional subdivisions. For the second example, we will apply an Open Subdiv modifier with 2 iterations. This modifier, also same as Turbo Smooth, focuses on subdividing the geometry to achieve a smoother appearance. Now, for the third one, we will demonstrate the preferred method using the Tessellate modifier. After we've applied Tessellate on our object, we will see this strange geometry. That is because the modifier is set to operate on faces, adding triangles, quads and angles to the geometry. We will need to adjust the Tessellate modifier setting to operate on polygons, ensuring that each polygon becomes a quad. Make sure the edge option is selected, as it divides the polygon from their center to the middle of each edge, and then set the tension to 19. Lastly, we will choose to add 2 iterations. If we now go in the left view by pressing L and then pressing Z to focus on our object, we can compare the 3 geometries. You will notice that Tessellate almost retains the original volume of the geometry while achieving a smoother appearance by dividing the polygons. This is why we recommend using Tessellate in this case, as it maintains the volume while providing the same smooth result. To ensure that the object is a perfect sphere, we will now apply a Spherify modifier. This modifier helps eliminate any irregularities or distortions, making the objects appear perfectly spherical. Once we have achieved the desired shape, we can proceed by converting the object to an editable poly, allowing us to perform further modification and detailing. Now let's move on to the process of separating the outer edges of one hexagon and one pentagon from the rest of the geometry. To do this, select the Edge Selection mode and choose the specific edges as demonstrated in the video. Once you have selected those edges, navigate to the Modify Selection section in the Modeling tab of the ribbon. Look for the Similar button and click on it. This action prompts 3ds Max to automatically select all the similar edges based on our previous selection. Now all outer edges of every hexagon and pentagon will be selected. Proceed to the Edit Edges rollout within the Modify panel, and within this rollout locate the Split button and click on it. This operation will break the selected edges, creating borders where the edge selection was. By splitting these edges, we create distinct elements for each hexagon and pentagon, allowing for individual manipulation and adjustments. Once the split operation is complete, change the selection mode to Element and select one hexagon or pentagon. Now, as you can see, all the hexagons and pentagons will be recognized as separate elements, enabling you to manipulate and make adjustments to each of them independently. Now let's select one hexagon. With the hexagon selected, navigate to the Modify Selection section in the Modeling tab of the ribbon and click on the Similar button. This will automatically select all the hexagons in the model. Next, we will navigate to the Edit Geometry rollout in the Modify panel, and within this rollout, we will locate the Detach button and click on it. Make sure that none of the checkboxes are checked and then click OK. This action will detach the selected hexagons as a separate object. Now, let's rename the detached object as SB_white to represent the white sections of the soccer ball. This will help us identify and distinguish the specific object. After renaming the SB_white object, select the object containing the pentagons and rename it as SB_black to represent the black sections of the soccer ball. To keep the scene organized, open the Scene Explorer and select Sort by Layer. Then select both objects, SB white and SB black, and convert them to editable poly. Then, in the top right corner of the Scene Explorer, locate and click on Create New Layer button. Rename the new layer as Geometry to group the objects together and maintain a structured workspace. Once the scene is organized, we can proceed with the further steps of the soccer ball modeling process. Now, let's focus on one of the objects, specifically SB Black, by isolating it. This will allow us to work on it separately. Once isolated, select the border selection mode and press Ctrl A on the keyboard to select all the borders in the object. Within the borders selected, navigate to the borders rollout in the Modify panel. Look for the extrude options and click on it. To reset the parameters for the extrude, right-click on the arrows to set them back to 0 on both values. Now, in the height parameter, put -1 cm to specify the desired extrusion. Once the value is entered, click OK to apply the extrusion effect to the selected borders. After completing the extrusion, exit the isolate mode to restore the full view of the scene. Now, let's select the SB White object and isolate it, similar to what we did previously. Once isolated, we will repeat the procedure and select the borders of the object. Select the border selection mode and press Ctrl A to select all borders. Select the extrude options from the Edit Borders rollout in the Modify panel and adjust the extrusion height to match the previous object, which was -1 cm. Confirm the extrusion by clicking OK. After completing the extrusion on the borders of SB White, exit the isolate mode to restore the full view of the scene. We could have done the extrusion when the object was still attached, but for the sake of this tutorial I wanted you to repeat the process twice to learn it better. Now that we have completed the extrusion for the borders on both objects, we can proceed with chamfering them to add a rounded edge effect. Now select the SB Black object and isolate it to focus on it exclusively. After isolating the object, switch to the edge selection mode. We need to carefully select the outer edges of the original polygons before the extrusion. Ensure that you choose the correct edges that form the outer boundaries of the original polygons. Additionally, select each edge located at the corners of the pentagons, as shown in the video. These specific edges are essential for the upcoming steps. Once you have made the precise selection of the desired edges, proceed to the Modify Selection section within the Modeling tab of the ribbon. Locate and click on the Similar button. After applying the Similar selection, it's important to double-check the selection to ensure that 3ds Max has automatically selected the desired edges throughout the entire object. Verify that the selection includes all the intended edges, especially edges at the corners of the pentagons. If you find any missed or incorrect edges, manually select them or ensure that the entire desired selection is complete. It's worth knowing that in certain cases, the Similar action may not select the desired edges due to its reliance on selection properties. For example, if you select an edge and then choose Similar, 3ds Max might select opposing edges with similar characteristics. This applies to other sub-objects like vertices, borders, polygons, and elements as well. If this occurs, we can adjust the default settings of the Similar action to modify the selection criteria. To modify the selection characteristics, navigate to the Modify Selection section in the Modeling panel of the ribbon. Click on the arrow below Similar to access a drop-down list with 4 different criteria options, and, for example, if we deselect all criteria and select only topology, the subsequent Similar selection will yield a different result. Experimenting with the available options allows us to fine-tune the selection and achieve the desired outcome. It's important to remember to revert any changes made to the selection criteria, since 3ds Max will remember your choice. This way, you can maintain consistency to ensure the desired edges are selected for the final result. Once we have the desired selection of edges, we can proceed with chamfering. To do this, navigate to the Edit Edges rollout in the Modeling panel. Look for the chamfer settings and click on it. In the chamfer settings, select the Quad Chamfer option. In the Edge Chamfer Amount parameter, input a value of 0.25 cm to determine the extent of the chamfer. Additionally, adjust the chamfer tension to 0.5 to control the smoothness of the chamfered edge. After taking these adjustments, click OK to apply the chamfer. Once done, convert the object to editable poly and exit the isolate mode. Now select the SB white object and isolate it. Once isolated, switch to the edge selection mode. However, in this case, we encounter a problem where some of the edges overlap, making it difficult to make the desired selection without any issues. To overcome this challenge, we will change the selection mode to Element and select one hexagon. Now, let's head over to the Modify tab and find the Edit Geometry rollout, and then scroll down to the bottom and you will see an option called Hide Unselected. Clicking on this will hide all other elements except the one hexagon we've selected. This gives us more room to work with and makes it easier to select the desired edges. Next, switch back to Edge Selection and start selecting the outer edges of the original polygons before the extrusion. Additionally, select every other edge located at each corner of the hexagon. To improve visibility, you can press the G key to disable the grid if it obstructs the selection process at any point. By following these steps, we ensure that we can make the desired selection accurately, even when dealing with overlapping edges. Once we have made the desired selection of edges, we will switch to Element Selection. Rest assured that Edge Selection will still remember our previous selection when we switch back. While in Element Selection mode, navigate to the Edit Geometry rollout in the Modify panel. Click on the Unhide All button to reveal every element of our object, which were hidden earlier. After unhiding all the elements, switch back to Edge Selection mode. The previous selection we made should still be intact, allowing us to continue working with the desired edges while having the complete visibility of the object. Navigate to the Modify Selection section in the Modeling tab and click on Similar. This action will select all similar edges based on our current selection. To ensure a thorough check, press F3 to switch to wireframe mode. Double check the entire selection to confirm that we have indeed selected all the desired edges. Although we shouldn't encounter any issues, it's always important to verify the automated selection. In this case, we can see that the automated selection selected some edges that we don't want in our selection. To fix this, we'll undo the previous section by pressing Ctrl Z. Then, with our initial selection still chosen, we'll go to the Modify Selection section in the Modeling panel in the ribbon and click on the arrow beneath the Similar button. Right now, we will add the Topology option to the existing criteria and click on Similar again. Now when we check the selection, we'll see that only the edges that we want are selected. After confirming the selection, navigate to the Edit Edges rollout in the Modify panel and click on the Chamfer settings. In the Chamfer settings dialog, choose the Quad Chamfer option. For the edge chamfer amount, input 0.25 cm to determine the extent of the chamfer and then set the edge tension of 0.5. Once you've made these adjustments, click OK to apply the chamfer with the specified settings to the selected edges. Once done, you can go ahead and convert the object to editable poly and exit the isolate mode. Now, before we move forward, I want to explain why I choose this approach instead of the standard approach, where we simply chamfer and extrude the ridges to create a soccer ball. Let me quickly model a soccer ball using the standard approach and then we can compare the results. Now let's compare the two models. While we achieve a similar result with the standard approach, it does not look as realistic. In reality, the patches of a soccer ball are sewn together, indicating that they were once individual pieces. Although we do not have to be extremely precise with 3D models, if we aim to recreate real-life objects, it is beneficial to consider how they were really made and replicate that process for a better result. I want to emphasize that this approach may not be fastest or the best one in terms of speed, but it offers advantages when it comes to UV unwrapping and texturing. In contrast, the standard approach would require more work later on if we took that shortcut. Stay tuned for the UV unwrapping and texturing steps and you will see what I'm talking about. I will just rename the new Hedra geometry as standard ball and I will place it in a new layer named standard approach so that we have it in the scene for comparison purposes in the later steps. Let's continue working on the soccer ball. You can now apply Turbo Smooth or Open Subdiff with 2 iterations to check if there are any holes where the 3 patches intersect. It appears that we don't have any problems, so we can now proceed further. Now delete the previously applied Turbo Smooth or Open Subdiff modifier. Next, we will add a push modifier with a very small amount. Search for the push modifier in the modifier list and apply it to the objects. Then set the value to 0.02 centimeters. This modifier pushes the polygons out along their normal direction, adding a minimal amount of volume to the soccer ball. When we render the final image, the patches will appear to be pressed against each other more naturally. Once applied, you can convert the object to an editable poly. Lastly, let's check the dimensions of the ball. To do this, select both the SB White and SB Black objects and navigate to the Utilities panel. Within the Utilities rollout, locate and click on Measure. This will bring up the measure rollout and at the bottom of it you will see the dimensions. Now we can observe that we have lost some volume when we applied the tessellate modifier, but not as much as we would have lost with Turbo Smooth or Open Subdiff. The true diameter of a soccer ball is 23 centimeters, so in order to fix this issue and have the correct dimensions for the model, we'll proceed with the next. To fix this issue, let's ensure that the default layer is active. If it's not active, click on the icon next to it to make it active. Then navigate to the Create panel and select Standard Primitives from the Geometry category list. Choose Box from the Object Type rollout. Then locate the Keyboard Entry rollout and expand it by clicking on the arrow. After that, you can input 23 centimeters for the length, width and height parameters. In the parameters rollout below, set 2 segments for each length, width and height. Finally, click on Create. 3ds Max will now generate a box and position it at the origin of the world. Next, press the F key on your keyboard to go to the front view and press Z to focus on the box. Select both the SB White and SB Black objects and enable the Snaps toggle from the toolbar. Right-click on the same button to open the grid and snap settings. Make sure that only snap on grid points and vertex are selected. If you don't see the yellow circle at the base of the pivot, please refer to the description below for a separate video on how to enable axis constraints so that we can proceed accordingly with the video. Once you have snapped both the SB White and SB Black objects to the center of the box on the Y-axis, navigate to the Modify panel and search for the FFD 2x2x2 modifier in the modifier list. Apply the modifier to the objects. In the modifier stack, expand the FFD modifier by clicking on the arrow and select control points or press 1 on your keyboard to enter control point editing mode. In the viewport, select the top control points of the FFD modifier and snap them to the top of the box. Repeat this process for the bottom control points, left control points and right control points as shown in the video. Once done, you can press L on your keyboard to switch to the left view and press Z to focus on the object. In the left view, repeat the process for snapping the control points on the left, which is the back of the object, and then on the right, which is the front of the object. Press 1 or click on control points again in the modifier stack to exit the edit mode. While the FFD modifier is still applied, navigate to the Utilities panel and check the dimensions for the object. You will now see that the objects have the exact diameter of a soccer ball. Proceed to convert the objects to editable poly and then select the box and delete it to remove it from the scene. Once the objects are converted to editable poly, select both SB Black and SB White objects and navigate to the Modify panel. In the modifier list, search for the Edit Normals modifier and apply it. With the modifier applied, press Ctrl A on your keyboard to select all normals and click on Unify in the parameters rollout to unify their direction. Then, search for the Smooth modifier in the modifier list and apply it. In the parameters rollout, set the smoothing groups to 1 to apply a single smoothing group to the whole object. Finally, convert the objects back to editable poly. Now let's move on to simple material assignment. Open the Slate material editor and create two standard materials. Rename the first material as black and select black color from the color palette. Rename the second material as white and choose white color from the color palette. Assign the black material to the SB Black object and the white material to the SB White object. This will help us clearly distinguish the shapes and visualize the soccer ball's appearance. So congratulations, you have successfully completed the modeling process for the soccer ball object. To sum this up, we've successfully built a soccer ball using 3ds Max. We followed a careful step-by-step process to create an accurate representation of the ball's unique pattern. By using techniques like tessellate and precise edge manipulation, we achieved a more realistic result that resembles how a real soccer ball is constructed. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video, where we'll continue the process and focus on UV unwrapping, and we will prepare our model for texturing. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you found this tutorial helpful. See you in the next video.